During COVID, I just had all these ideas of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. It's time for me to start my own thing again.
Give me a little background of where you come from, how you just developed a business, and where you are today.
So I've worked for digital agencies my whole career. And so this is my third agency.
The transparency and the communication that you're emphasizing within your business is extremely powerful. What would be the first company that you would start tomorrow?
I would probably start a
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we can discuss how to grow 1% every day in business in itself. Today, we have Lysa Miller, the CEO of Ladybugz. Ladybugz is a web design agency located in Boston, Massachusetts that focuses on creating websites that convert visitors into dollars. Their iterative process and their granular understanding of how your business functions allows them to develop sites that match your vision, but also converts your website visitors. Thank you so much, Lysa, for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here on this sunny Friday. Well, sunny in Boston anyway.
I love that. Yeah, you hopped on and you were animated right away. You were excited. And we love having that on the show because if you're excited to hop on a podcast and you're excited to get your story out there, it means that you really do care and love what you do. So let's dive into that a little bit. I got to dive into your website a little bit, see what you guys do. And I love your approach to website development. You're not just putting up a page in the hopes of representing a business, but you're putting up a page in the structure to actually grow the business, to be optimized, to really get a return for that website. So can you give me a little background of kind of where you come from, how you just developed a business and where you are today?
Yeah, so I am a public relations practitioner and journalist by education and sort of by trade, and started freelancing at a young age doing that stuff while I was in college. And somehow I ended up in the internet field. So I've worked for digital agencies my whole career. And so this is my third agency. Ladybugz 1 was me freelancing a lot and growing it to be an agency that then got purchased by another agency. So I was there for 5 years. And during COVID, I just had all these ideas of like what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And, it was time for me to start my own thing again. So, when you're in contractual obligations, you want to make sure you do everything you need to do and then be able to move on. So one thing I did do was I kept the name Ladybugz contractually. And so when I went back out, I started freelancing again. I was like, I'm not going to own an agency again. That lifestyle is too crazy for me. Guess what happened? Client became the next client, became the next client. And in the end, what I wanted to do was build a different agency. That's basically what I wanted to do. So that was really, really important to me to be able to create an agency that was different from the ones I had previously built and could be more flexible and agile and all those things moving forward as our world changes like week to week, day to day, year to year. 2 years ago, my business was completely different than it is today. And that's like only 2 years. So that's a lot of our history right there. So
I love that. I would love to hear more about that initial purchase. You building an agency that got bought out. You obviously must have created something that was super, super powerful and must have had a mindset that was a little bit different than what we're seeing in the market today. If someone's going to come and acquire you early, can you give us a little breakdown of how that process went, or really what was the uniqueness that they wanted to acquire from you in the beginning?
yeah. So basically what happened was I met this gentleman on Twitter. And became friends, and he had an agency and I had an agency, and we got along great. And we decided to merge our agencies together, and mine was smaller. So basically, that's what we did. We merged together for 5 years. We had a great time together. We built that agency. I feel like I wanted to go in a different direction. So, he got what I wanted. I got what I wanted. And, I learned a lot. I think if I was to take away anything of being in a partnership and growing a business that big is that, you learn so much. You learn your mistakes. You learn your weaknesses. You learn your strengths. And so I took all of that and my personal goals and my personal sort of different ways I wanted to do things. I really wanted to adapt more of an agile process, more of a iterative process, and didn't want to be tied into like black and white checklists. I really wanted to create an experience that did have processes, but was much looser and could sort of go with the agile sort of iterative process. So that allowed us to get closer to that client's vision to deliver what we wanted. And then we targeted the certain clients that we wanted. So that's sort of where we ended up today and how we got here and why we love what we do every day.
I love that. And I want to dive into that iterative process a little bit. You talk about like that was the one thing that you found to be the most beneficial factor and what you found to be what you love the most. It seems like what it sounds like that's coming from you. Did you find that it's the biggest problem in the market right now is that most of these businesses are too rigid, that their SOPs lock them into a structure that gives it either too consistent from one business or another or not adaptable enough?
I absolutely think that, like, just experiencing it again. So in my first agency, social media was huge and digital marketing was huge. And like now everybody's a social media agency. So, just having to be able to change that stuff, like, okay, one day you're a social media agency, but that's not maybe where the demand is right now. And you have to switch to be a web design agency or you have to focus on digital marketing. You have to be able to, as an agency, those are pretty standard services that you can kind of, go between and kind of fall under that whole agency space. So being able to do that and be able to sort of like, go back and forth between things, reprice things, reimagine processes. If you needed to make a 30% profit margin, then how do you make that in a different way? And all that kind of stuff that you need to consider. So I think you have to be somewhat agile. I'm not saying that you can't have processes, but you do have to be able to adapt. And if you are too rigid and you are too, set on the way you do things, you can lose your business. You can lose your business in a year. You can lose your business in 6 months if you can't adapt. So we all know through COVID, we had to do that. So being able to do that is has been key to the success of our business and our clients' businesses.
I love that, being fluid like water. And the example that instantly comes to my mind is Jeff Bezos with Amazon, right? Starting a company to sell books, right? And now you see what it is today because of his fluidity and the ability to change and adapt and iterate, right? That was his biggest thing. So I love that. You brought up a little bit before that you went after your ideal clients and you kind of attacked who you wanted to work with. Can you hone in on that a little bit? Who was you or who is today your ideal client and who you really love to work with?
Basically, again, that changes a little bit too, because as we work with our first ideal client, it's been sort of spinning off into other clients that we can help and then also building little business units for those. So in the beginning, it really was I wanted to go after companies that needed a more agile sort of from the ground up, get them started and somebody to work with them as they grow. And so I chose to work in biotech because that's where I had experience. That's been really great. So what happened was we would bring these founders in, they would tell us their stories about, their last experience or, just whatever their success wasn't. And then we took that story and we tried to turn it around. And so, when they came in and said, people weren't getting their vision and, they didn't feel like things were delivered at the end, we realized that there wasn't enough stuff going on in the middle. It was too waterfall. It was like, this is your design, this is what you need to say, and then this is the end. So I think that that was what we started doing, and we priced it right because they were early growth companies. So we don't have the big agency price tag. We have a medium agency price tag. We, worked with timelines, all different things to sort of like place that product there for them and give it to them like sort of on this silver platter. Like, here's what you need. We're the experts. We'll work with you and we'll deliver it for this price. And there's just like not a lot of, they could look at that and be like, well, that's not what I want. And that's fine. Because if that's not what you want, that's fine. Because that's not what we, that's what we deliver. So, so that's how we did it. And we just started marketing it and promoting it and talking to people. And that's how we really honed in on that early biotech market. And so what happened was, obviously we're really busy during that time of COVID, but last year, like 2 summers ago, we really saw it end. Like biotech was dead. We weren't getting any leads. We weren't doing any sites. But what we had done in the meantime was build other units of the business. While we had perfected that, we kind of took other areas we could sell to different markets to. And, also there's also the copycats of the industry. So, I had somebody actually leave my company and go do the exact same thing and copy our pricing and copy everything, and just call it a different name. Even use our work on their website and call it theirs. Like, that's life, that's business, and so you're always, as sort of the innovator of the company, you're having to re-innovate because people can follow you, but they can never lead ahead of you. Like, your ideas are going to be your ideas. So when that happened to me, I was just like, that's okay. Like, the universe will take care of that. That's going to be what it is. I just need to worry about this company and, move forward with this company. So we definitely tapped into some new industries that worked really, really well for us. And our digital marketing business tripled. So sometimes when you move from one area to another, it's like, yeah, it's hard, but it's very fruitful. So even though biotech died for a couple of years, it's come back. Now we have this whole other side of the business set up, and we basically have two businesses now, and we're set up for huge growth this year. The pain, with the pain comes all of the presents.
Lisa, an incredible story. And I want to go back for the entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this right now, how powerful her statement just was. That instead of at a time where you could have felt like you were betrayed and that someone stabbed you in the back and so on, and be negative with the positioning, she kept positive, she moved forward, and she found a new way to really present the business and find success, which is just incredible. What's your favorite category now, right? So you started out with biotech because you had your references in that, but now you have multiple different categories. What's one that really excites you today?
Well, biotech still totally excites me because I get to work with those founders and I become friends with them. And, most of those clients are still with us 3, 4 years later. So that part's amazing. They're long-term relationships. But, during that time, we also started doing a lot of digital marketing because that is definitely my strength as an individual. It's digital marketing, not so much the websites. But so we started honing in on family owned businesses and privately owned businesses in the Boston area. So, and those are not small businesses. One of those is an over $300 million business. But we felt like, how do we help these local businesses? Because we are in Boston. So, what advantage do we have to help these businesses? So, that's really how we grew that whole digital marketing side so fast. And then we also work in healthcare. So, healthcare startups, specifically even geared towards women. So that has been a very good niche for us. And we do a lot of nonprofit. So those are kind of most of what we're doing right now. And we're doing the same thing. We're doing these Agile websites. We are working with the founders. Some of these women's healthcare organizations are like, I guess that's probably my biggest joy because I'm a woman and I need healthcare, and seeing things innovate in that space and different things people are doing. I mean, they're basically doing like what I'm doing, except, in a different industry. So I feel like, Ladybugz has a 32-hour work week. Like, how many agencies have a 32-hour work week? Every agency owner wants to hate on me right now. But, as agencies, like, we've always overworked. Like, we've worked the 60, 70 hours a week, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. So, there's lots of things about this company that, were my vision, that excite me, that I can't wait to keep moving forward. So, yeah, I could talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the what you're delivering to your clients, and I think that's awesome. Can we dive in a little bit into the how? I want to understand, obviously, your mentality around this and the iterative process that you have within either the website development or the digital social media is a bit unique. I believe in the same thing. I call it A/B testing and the engineer's mindset and having very clean scientific testing structures. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are different in that space? If someone's listening to this right now and they're like, man, I'm in Boston. I love what she's saying. I want to engage, but how is she different than agency A, B, and C that's doing website and digital advertising?
Yeah, I mean, I think the website, like the product itself, anybody can do a website and anybody can please you with a website, and that's fine. But like, we want to deliver your vision. So, sometimes it could be the agency's vision. We want to make sure we're delivering their vision because of who they are. So, like, if it was a medium sized company and they came to us, they might expect a whole different experience, like with a project manager and having things tasked out, not meeting your team members. Like, that's not us. We have every team member on all the calls, every team member's involved. We build the site all together at the same time. So we're writing, we're designing, we're developing all at the same time and bringing that through like an agile process. So that is really a big difference with us because a lot of agencies bring the designers in at first and they build out, pages, and then you go and then you build the pages and then you put, the content in them and then you launch it. And so what ends up happening is when the client's not part of that whole process at the end, like they could be happy and they might be really happy. But in my experience, I felt like they weren't happy enough. They're coming in, they have a science, they're going to cure cancer, they're going to cure Alzheimer's, they're going to, do so many things. And it's like, you have to take that excitement and that vision and put that into a visual user experience that people go to their site and they're like, oh my God, that looks so cool. Investors are like, yes, I want to give them $100 million. Because I would say that of all the, clients we're working with, they're probably in Series A. They probably are looking for 60 to $100 million. So that would be a pretty, specific commonality. So that's how we do that process. And I think a lot of it has to do with pricing, and a lot of it has to do with like, how your company's set up. And so like a bigger agency can't really do that. They have to sort of be a little bit more processed, because if they don't, and people go over time and budget and all that stuff, they lose money. So we've incorporated the time for everybody to be in there and built that into the price. And I think in the end, even though it's more time, it's less, like, I want to say, less fixing it at the end. Or, so a lot of times, when you're doing QA on a website at the end, you're spending like 2 weeks doing QA on that website, but if you're QAing it all along with the client, you take that 2 weeks out of the timeline. And not only is it faster, it's more efficient, there's less frustration. Because when you put a client through QA and they have to go on their own website and they have to fix stuff and they are not happy. Like, you are already taking a minus sign from your delighted client. So those were the pain points that really I wanted to solve. And so if we can fix things, have things be perfect so I used to get in calls, and if I would have a designer on the call, I had a designer at one point that was on calls, and he would show the pages and they would have mistakes on them, and it's like, you can't do that. Like, everything has to be, delivered like very well, before, because again, that one little negative experience that affects their overall experience. So, now when we show things, like, we want to make sure the text is right, and if it's not, we tell them in advance that, maybe this section's not done, but communication, I guess, is a huge part of it too. But yeah, I mean, I used to think that the worst thing was like QA. So I'm like, that client is gonna hate us, So
It's the whole point.
frustrating. Yeah, it's a frustrating pain point. So why not solve it while you're going through the process? And one way that we were able to solve that is by owning the content. So
So even the content development, like the images and everything else that's going to the site.
go right from the storytelling to the branding to the messaging to the actual writing, all of that, we take that full experience. And I think owning that whole experience makes it way more successful. I'm not saying every client does that, but I would say that of our biotech clients, at least 80% do it. So,
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, think how daunting it is for a business owner to hop onto a 15-page website with backlinks, blogs, copywriting, headlines, imagery, and just say, hey, is this good to run? It creates immense level problems. But the transparency and the communication that you're emphasizing within your business is extremely powerful. And a note that all the entrepreneurs and business owners listening should take note of in your business. Even from, she's talking about website design, but the same process could be for a fencer, for a roofer, if you're doing any kind of high ticket sales and walking a customer through the process. It is always easier to be with the consumer step by step and be very transparent, because that's what you're doing. You're allowing for transparency to say, this is the actual process that it takes to build a website, and for each step we're going to check off on you, and we're going to develop a communication with you, which gets them more ingrained into your business, more ingrained into your process. And as you said, it saves a lot of time and headache, because you're not dealing with major fires. You might be dealing with little hiccups because you're addressing them as they come up. That's awesome. And Lysa, to hear you speak, your background, your understanding, you got obviously have a very strong understanding of marketing. You have a very strong understanding of how to help your clients, and in not just the biotech space, because you might bring that up as that's what makes you excited. But I can tell from what you're bringing up, this is applicable to all industries and every business, from the local mom and pop shops in Boston to that biotech one that you initially started with. But to have this level of confidence, you have to go through what I would call some trials and tribulations. You got to go through some difficulties and some challenges to, and enlighten us a little bit before about when you in that major agency, that you find your positives and you find your negatives. For our listeners today, do you have a story, or do you have anything that happened to you throughout your process in your business that kind of changed the way that you look at marketing, or changed the way that you looked at your processes, or a failure or a challenge that you faced that you overcome that kind of set you in your pace today and gave you the confidence that you have to speak the way you do today?
well, I think that as a business owner, just, being in a business with someone else, sometimes, you might not be using your skills to your best abilities, because that business isn't the business you were in. And so you're actually being put like in a job. You're less of a like, I'm the owner, I'm gonna do all these. It's like, okay, one owner's doing this, the other owner's doing this. And so, you get kind of tagged a little bit. So into doing certain things. So I think as an agency owner or a business owner, people are always like, don't have your fingers in every pie. Like, I guess in a way, I don't agree with that because, as the visionary of Ladybugz, like over the last couple of years, I've been growing digital marketing and I took my eye off the ball on the website design project side and the sales side because it was running so well. And so because I left, then that took on the life of everyone on that team. So I had to come back and innovate when the economy changed. So I kind of had to jump back in, re-innovate everything, work with everybody because these people don't own the company. They're not going to think about innovating the way that we sell or innovating the way. So I think as the company visionary, you have to be involved in everything. And that's why it's so important to lead and teach and mentor. Like you shouldn't be doing the work anymore, even though I can be guilty as sin, as Taylor Swift says. Um, I think that it's important that you are leading people into their best light. And for me, I have some younger people here that, I want to turn them into really great business owners or really great team members or really talented designers. And so my role is that and, making sure the vision of Ladybugz stays the same and innovating and doing those things that not everybody can do because not everybody is an entrepreneur. So I can't expect entrepreneur skills from everybody, So I think delegation and teaching and leading and all of that is definitely where I think that that I think my business is doing well because of that. Whereas like my previous business, where I didn't get as involved in things, I feel like it lost my vision and it lost what I could have brought to the table, which again, like was sort of the reason I wanted to go out on my own because there was, I think I wanted to do things a certain way. I wanted to work with certain clients. We had a different vision there. And so, you can't change your vision when you're like a $4 million company. It's like, so it's like, I'm just going to start over. I'm going to be small. I'm going to be boutique. And that's what I did. And that's how I continue to do it. And some days leading and being a mentor and teaching and doing all that is the hardest job on the entire planet. But every day it pays off. And, I'm just looking forward to the day when I can just work on vision. I can just work on innovating and building new things. So we're getting there.
Being a leader and giving a clear vision and giving a clear vision with motivation in the back to get the most and the best out of every employee in your company. Love it, Lysa. I mean, it's what a true visionary is doing. It's what a true leader does every single day. And it's, I'm right with you. I'm cool with getting my hands dirty. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm known as the guy that drinks too much energy drinks and I barely drink any energy drinks. Cause I hop on calls and I'm animated. I have energy. I'm ready to rock and roll. And I'm doing that just to help motivate, present positivity to the team. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing with yours over at Ladybugz. So we hit on now kind of some of the things that you've gone through in their past, what you're delivering to clients, how you're getting about it. I'd love to hear about a big win. Do you have anything on your repertoire that you've done with Ladybugz that is just an incredible win or something that really hits your heartstrings of somebody that you've helped or someone that you've helped grow their business?
Yeah. So when I started Ladybugz, a lot of what was going on in the industry was other agency owners were not doing well. So basically what I did was I took that opportunity to bring in partners. And so I was friends with a guy, his name's Frank. He's like literally my best friend in the whole world. And he was my friend at my previous agency and I actually met him from my previous partner, who's also a great guy. But anyways, when I started Ladybugz, he was not that busy. And so I presented the idea. Do you want to do this? Do you want to? And he's just like, sure. We're like, bro, I'm with you. And so what we did was we created a partnership. So he sort of owns part of the business. I mean, he doesn't own it on paper, but he owns the business in the business unit and he runs it. He manages it. He does amazing. And so like, I was like, what is your dream, Frank? And he's like, I want a van. I want to build a van. I want to travel and I just want to work in my van. So he built his van, like maybe the second year we were together. And now it's almost 4 years and he just built his second van. And, I like to tell my team members that, Ladybugz makes your dreams come true. Because Frank would not have been able to do that had we not joined as partners. I mean, maybe he could have, but like everybody was hurting at that time. And I feel like I came in and I helped a lot of my friends who are also designers, developers, and I gave them work. And that's how Ladybugz was basically formed. I called on people I already knew. I called on people that were maybe struggling, people that I knew were awesome. I hired people that other agencies were not hiring because they were slow. And that's how we came to be. And so Frank being the first person, and every day that guy believes in me. He's like, Lysa, do it. Just do it. And so having that kind of faith and in the business, and he is the one person that has kept me like on my toes, kept me motivated, kept me excited. And like everyone in this company has a little bit of a Frank story. So that is definitely the biggest win for Ladybugz.
Working at Ladybugz, making your dreams come true. I love that. And the van story is awesome. And you're right. I mean, to be totally transparent, if he was a CEO of his own company, coming from a man that tried to do it a few months ago and take my 1-year-old daughter and my wife in a van and work from it, it is way too daunting. As a CEO, you have too much on your plate and there's too much resting on your shoulders for Wi-Fi to drop or for you not to be able to access a meeting. So, great. I mean, what you've done there for Frank is incredible. And it sounds like what you're doing and opening those opportunities for all your employees is super, super powerful. Let's talk a little bit about where the company's going and where you find the future. I've asked this question a lot of podcasts. I've brought up where you see the industry going in the next 3 to 5 years, and everyone brings up AI. AI is changing everyone. Let's move past that. I want to know what Ladybugz is doing. What is Ladybugz doing, and what do you see as someone that's ingrained into the let's say the sales world, right? You're in the process of manipulating people to understand new processes, new businesses, and moving their dollars from one position to another. Do you see major changes happening within the marketing and advertising in the next 3 to 5 years? And how does Ladybug plan to change to keep up with those?
I've thought about it a lot, and I've also thought about AI a lot. I think that just having more products and being more, being able to change, like, because we don't know what the market's like. You can say, what is it in 5 years? We have no idea. It could be the zombie apocalypse, and I might have to sell zombie food online. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of people, yes, I have this 5-year goal and plan for my business, but you know, where do I want to be? Like, I want to be retired, to be honest, and I want, other people to own this business. I want them to continue my vision. So that's technically where I want to be. But in terms of where the industry's going, I don't know. All I can really do is iterate and try to stay on top of everything, try to be innovative in like what I do, which I've had to do a lot, obviously with websites and digital marketing. Like we also don't do digital marketing like other agencies. So I think just always being open-minded and looking for opportunities. Because I think that's what Jeff Bezos did. Like I was, I'm probably a little younger than him, but when they started, that was my first agency I worked at. And that was the first, like the search engine. It's like, what I have to do SEO for a Google? Like, I know Netscape and Yahoo. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to do Google. Like, so, and when you think about back then, did you ever think Amazon would be what it is now? So it's hard to imagine what the future is. And I hate to put like a defined, goal or, label out there. So I just think keep being innovative, keep helping your clients, keep researching, stay on top of things, stay on top of software. But I also think like don't follow trends. Like the thing that sets Ladybugz apart is because we don't follow trends. And I'm not saying like don't do things that are good that other people doing. I'm just saying like don't hop on the next bus. Like come up with your own bus. Like, you know what I mean? Like don't hop on your friend's bus. I mean, you can. You can be a biotech digital marketing agency and only do that and only do websites and that's what you want to be. But like that's, been proven that in the last 2 years that can't always sustain you. So, you think about other ways you can help clients, think of other ways. And so some things I've been thinking about are like mentorship, like mentorship, kind of like a class that I can teach, online and people could buy it. I could do some digital marketing stuff so that if you can't afford to hire a digital marketing agency, like what can you do yourself? Like just maybe some things like that. And just trying to figure out, how we can help people more without, if it ends up like lots of people say SEO is dead. So I hate to say that because I don't think it's dead, but we don't know what's going to happen. And so what is the thing that's going to replace SEO? If SEO is dead, it is going to be AI. So how can you take advantage of AI to use it that way? People are telling us now they're finding us on AI. So, how do you leverage that? And how do you, like a selling feature or like one of your differentiators? Like, I think people think of AI too as like things are going to be done for you. But, machine learning is still not human learning, and it's taking things that's already been done and it's, gaining insights from what's been done, but it's not thinking about the future. The future isn't really in there for it to think about. It's connecting what the future could be, but like we can do that in our own brains and we can be like, okay, this is the future and this is how we're going to go for it. And so that might be the thing that, makes us different.
AI is definitely a follower, not a leader. Like what you brought up earlier, right? The difference between a follower and a leader, and someone taking what you've already done and following your process, they're always gonna be a step behind. And that's where AI is, right? AI has great information really quick, but it is always one step behind the people that are really creating blue oceans and breaking through the waves and creating their own market space.
Mhm.
Because I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm assuming somewhere's in your house you have a poster of Bruce Lee and it says "Be like water," because your mindset and your iterations, your ability to change, and just a lot of people are afraid of change, right? To adapt and change your process is usually scary for a lot of people, but you're facing it head on, attacking it, and it's giving you the benefit of growing and growing in the right way. So I love that. And that leads into my one of my last questions here. Have you heard the term Kaizen before?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Read many books on it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, the term Kaizen for the listeners out there, if you haven't heard before, Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% progression every day in both business and itself. It's used in multiple different categories between how you function as a team to even Toyota made it a very well-known term in their usage of it in their company. So, my question to you, Lysa, is how do you find your Kaizen? What do you do as the CEO of Ladybugz to constantly be on top of the ball, both mentally, physically, spiritually, within business and within yourself? Where do you go to find your Kaizen?
So basically, I am a huge meditator and manifester. Sometimes when I'm with my friends and we're somewhere, they introduce me as a manifester, not an entrepreneur or business owner, because that's like they're like just stuff just happens to you. But I work hard to make that stuff happen. And even yesterday, I had to catch myself because I was complaining about something. And like my new way of dealing with that is to take that internally, meditate on that complaint and fix it and make the energy good and and it will come to you if you sit back and you do the quiet and you think about where you want to go, what you want to happen, those things, you can solve those problems yourself. You don't need to bring that energy into the world of complaining. And, it's different if you want to like discuss an issue that needs to be fixed, but even that can sometimes end up being a negative thing. So I try to stay really positive. And I am definitely guilty of being negative, at parts of my life. And adding the manifestation into your meditation once you get good at it is life blowing and life changing. Like, people be like, what are some things you manifested? I'm like, I don't know, like piano, like a trip, like, you know what I mean? The perfect life. Like, I'm going to say I have a great life. Like, people are like, what else do you want to manifest? There's not a lot I really want to manifest. So when I do manifest, I try to manifest just for positivity things. Like, I think about, you know, my family being happy. I think about sunshine. So I think having those practices in my life is huge. And I exercise. So I spend a lot of time in nature. And with my dog, I do a little dog training. So I think that all that stuff is so important to your well-being. And like I told you before, we practice a 32-hour or a 4-day work week, which is really important to me because I feel like people do their best work when they're happy at home. And so if they're really happy at home, like I am, like doing my meditation, going for my walks, I can come into the business. I can do in 3 hours, like that on maybe a normal day might take me 8. So as long as people have that energy level and they feel good and they're happy, they're going to produce, they're going to be creative, and you just need to take that negativity away. So I am like a huge meditation, manifestation. Love it way.
Oh, couldn't agree more. And a huge point you put there is just the creativity and the actual mindset that people have when they're not in stress. One of the things that I use in my coaching and I use in my training is to get people to understand that 7 minutes of stress will drop an IQ 50%. You would go from Einstein level genius to not being able to really read the words in front of you on a piece of paper. So being able to create that environment for yourself and for your employees where you remove the stress and give them that opportunity to be creative and the opportunity to have the desire and the ambition to love what they do and go after it means that they are not going to just get done what they need to get done. They'll 2 to 3x the capabilities that you're putting in front of them, and absolutely love it. Lysa, you're definitely not only a role model but an example for all entrepreneurs of finding positivity, finding strength, and positioning yourself for success. I have one last bonus question for you for podcast. Have you ever read the book Atlas Shrugged?
I have not read that one.
Okay. It's a very long book. It's super, super long, so I don't recommend it, but the concept's incredible. So the concept of Atlas Shrugged talks about how entrepreneurs like yourself, me, everyone listening to this podcast right now, we put the world on our shoulders and we move the world forward. Without business, without operations, these ideas and concepts actually don't change the world. You can do it yourself, but it's just a small, infinitesimal thing compared to how a lot of entrepreneurs actually put the stress and the difficulties of the changes of the world on their shoulder and move forward. The book Atlas Shrugged talks about what would happen if we all just shrugged it off. What if we all walked away from our companies? What if you, as an agency owner, me, the restaurant just left their business? Yeah, the infrastructure is still there. The home improvement materials is laying around, but no one's building houses anymore. If that would happen today, Lysa, and Atlas shrugged and we all walked away from our businesses, what would be the first company that you would start tomorrow?
Wow. That is a very pointed question, my friend. What is it? I would probably start a manifestation company. Something to help. I mean, I do feel like my purpose in the world is to make people's lives better because I've been given the ability to do that, and the universe has given me that, and that's a gift. Not everybody gets that. So you do have this world of responsibility on your shoulders in some ways, but that would be another way that I would give back. I would love to give people that peace, teach them how to give themselves that peace, and that's what I would do.
How beautiful, Lysa. How beautiful. And for the entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this right now, especially if you're in the Boston area or you're in the biotech space, make sure you connect with Lysa. Someone that says, if the world was on fire and we all started over, my goal would be to continue to help people, continue to help move the world forward and help people find their desires, find their dreams, and push them to make those a reality. Lysa, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. For the listeners, how can they get in contact with you? How would they be able to find you?
Best way to find me is just on my website, ladybugz with a z.com. But I'm also on LinkedIn a ton. So you can find me there. It's Lysa with a Y Miller. And I love connecting with people there. Meet so many amazing people like yourself, Kyle. So it's been really a great pleasure talking to you today and talking to your audience. So I'm super excited that we got to do this.
Thank you so much. All that information is going to be found below in the notes. And if you finish this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Lysa, thank you so much for your time. You really are excellent. I hope for continuous progression and good growth for Ladybugz in the future. And for the listeners, we will be talking to you soon.